Okay. So, in our dialogue in the last 48 hours, 24 hours, a number of terms have come up that are translations of Pali terms that I don't necessarily think are skillful translations. And one of those was the term Ekagatta, Pali term Ekagatta. It's generally translated as one-pointedness, which I agree with. I think it's a good translation of it. But it literally means Eka means one, and Gata means gate. And it refers to the senses are known in Pali as gates of the body. So there's the eye gate, the nose gate, the mouth gate, the ear gate, so forth. And, that would be like our term orifice. So the eye orifice, or maybe the visual channel, these are kind of all trying to get at that same basic idea. And you mentioned some teacher had taken that one-pointedness and thought of it as being a peak. And to me, that doesn't inform the translation. If anything, it kind of shifts it away and from what Ekagatta, the intention of Ekagatta. And I think it only reflects that that teacher probably really doesn't know Pali very well. So let's look at other ways, other terms that have been. So let's say this is going to be a dialogue about, maybe a monologue, but you're certainly welcome to put your 2 cents in. So it'll be, let's say, on the language of Gnosis, and especially in Buddhism, and how Buddhist Pali terms have been translated into English and why.
What is the Pali for dwelling? Vihara.
The problem with cultivating no mind is there's no memory either. Yeah, it's vihara or viharati is used, a variant on vihara. So vihara is a home or a place, and viharati is to reside in. And the Pali language is a very simple language with really only about 5,000 common terms and maybe as many as 20,000 elaborated terms. And so, like gata, gate, is used for a lot of stuff. Ayatana is used for a lot of stuff as well. It doesn't just describe the 4 stages of out-of-body experiences or immaterial attainments, but it also, ayatana is also used for the orifices or the sensory capacities of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and all that kind of stuff. So, no, we were talking earlier about another term that you brought up.
Asceticism.
Oh, asceticism, exactly. So, in fact, a lot of the suttas are translated, ascetic so-and-so did blah, blah, blah.
The ascetic Gautama.
Right, exactly. Now, what term is being translated as ascetic and why? The term is samana. That the Pali term is samana. In Sanskrit, it's sramana. And for some reason, it's being translated as ascetic. But that's not what the term means. A samana is really a mendicant, or sramana is a mendicant. Somebody who wanders homeless, whose life is dedicated so much to the contemplative life that they don't care for their own material needs. And in India, it's this wonderful nation that values that still today. And so a samana or a shramana can wander through a lot of Asia and be fed. And the householders view feeding a mendicant or a samana or shramana as, gaining merit. And I don't particularly like the idea of merit because I think it leads to other misunderstandings. But, if mendicants need the householders to take care of them, if we have to sell them on the idea of good karma or cultivating merit, then fine. But merit goes awry when the merit concept goes awry when somebody might build this huge temple, spend a huge amount of money on building temples everywhere, maybe at the expense of feeding mendicants, right? Well, there's no merit in that. As a mendicant, I could care less about the big temples of the world if they're not going to offer me a bowl of food and a place to rest. Then, as far as I'm concerned, it's a meaningless pile of stone. So then the question is why would translators translate samana or shramana as ascetic instead of mendicant? To me, it's just a mistranslation. So it's a misunderstanding of what a shramana or a samana is. Yes, maybe many samana and shramana might have been ascetics, but that's not what that term means. They're really mendicants. A mendicant is a wandering monk or nun who's dedicated to the contemplative life, or spiritual life.
I know they have, sometimes they'll or I see the ascetic Gautama, and sometimes the recluse Gautama. I'm wondering if it's the same Pali term.
It might be. Certainly there's been a number of translators. I collected something like 28 different translations of the Dhammapada, and there's about 6 different translators who worked on the Sutta Pitaka. And so some of them translate terms in different ways. And I think that recluse is a reasonable translation. I think mendicant is even closer, a little better. But ascetic is far off, especially for a Buddhist, because the whole thing about the middle path of the Buddha was to reject asceticism, which asceticism really is about self-abuse, as a spiritual path. And the Buddha's whole thing was realizing that asceticism does not lead to liberation, freedom from suffering, dukkha, and liberation, nirodha. In his opinion, it just continued the cycle of anxiety. Or manic depression is particularly my favorite term, because we have a dukkha, a sukha, and I think that's about manic depression. Again, Pali is a simple language, so they might not have. So I think that sukha is used in a number of different ways. So, for instance, a lot of interpreters of jhana believe that sukha disappears because we have asukha specifically appears in the description of the 4th jhana. But my argument is well, sukha is being used in different ways because they don't have a lot of synonyms in the early Pali language for elated feelings. So joy and effusiveness, they didn't have those nuances in their language.